Hello, everybody. I hope you're well. I'm very lucky today to be joined by Steph Walker, who is the founder of the Agency UK. I nearly slipped up there, Steph, and talked about what we talked about just now. The one thing that I shouldn't say, nearly went straight into it. So, Steph is the founder of the Agency UK. Steph, thank you so much for making time in your very busy schedule to join us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, for those of us who don't follow you on LinkedIn, Instagram, all those social medias, who are you? What are you about?
So, as you've said, my name is Steph. I'm one of the founders of the Agency UK. We are a British brokerage. What's a brokerage, some may ask? So, we're a network of self-employed estate agents now across 38 counties of the UK and counting. And we operate under the Agency UK as our brand. The Agency UK itself is a provision of technology, resource, support, essentially for experienced estate agents to be able to run their own estate agency business in their local community.
Fab. So you were an estate agent for quite a long period of time, to say the least. I think you started in 2004, was it that sort of direction?
Yeah, 2003, 2004. Yeah. So actually, I think I'm one of the only people who probably knew that they were always going to be an estate agent because my parents were estate agents. So I think it was predestined.
It was
Or
going to
as I
happen.
sometimes say, estate agency is in my blood. And then my co-founder says, "Ew, that gives me the ick." So I try.
Yeah, there we go. You can
Yeah,
never get far away. The apple
in the
never falls
blood.
far away
Yeah.
from the tree. So what made you want to sort of step away from the front line of estate agency, so to speak? 'Cause obviously you're not you're not valuing properties every day and viewings and whatever else it may be. Because obviously you're busy running the agency UK. So what sort of made your decision to kind of step back from the front line to kind of the back line, so to speak?
I think it was really abundant to me that people needed an avenue to have autonomy, to be able to be the estate agent that they wanted to be within their local area. But quite frankly, the costs of running your own estate agency are so prohibitive that you need these outlets, these brokerages that can wear a lot of the day-to-day costs, give a lot of support, give you access to tools and tech that you wouldn't be able to afford to have on your own, and act as that support network. And I just believed with my own experience and certainly the experience of my business partners, we had a really nice mesh and quite a unique, I suppose, background that we could kind of go, let's look at what's really great about this type of model or this setup that we've been in before or this country that we've lived in and experienced how things happen and bring all that together into what is now the Agency UK. So I think there's tons of options out there now, which is brilliant. There should be options for clients. There certainly should be options for estate agents in choosing their business partner. But I think we've built something that is really, really supportive. And I genuinely do believe we are one of the best options when you're looking for a business partner as an independent estate agent.
Yes, and that's absolutely, I don't disagree with that for a second, and I think that's really good. What's the sort of what's the goal? What's the big picture for the agency UK? So what's the metric you look at in 5 years' time and go, not necessarily we've made it, but that's a really good figure to look at. Is it number of agents? Is it the amount of money your agents are making? What's the sort of key metric you look at?
Suppose I'm a bit tongue-in-cheek when I say this, but when you offer an 80-20 split, it's definitely not about the number of agents. It's actually agents that are producing. So I suppose a slightly different metric to other brokerages. And this sounds really cheesy, but actually it's the metric that also makes you feel really, really good because there is such an opportunity for people to make life-changing money. And you know what? I love estate agency, and I have been a little bit back at the coalface over the last couple of months because I felt like I was a bit like Steph in the ivory tower, sort of telling other people how they should run their business. And I haven't been a day-to-day estate agent since 2015, so it's been interesting trialing and testing some of those things and seeing how it works. But you know, you could build something incredible in an industry that's so great to be a part of. The conventional setups just don't allow. They don't allow us to earn huge big sums of money, perhaps outside of prime central London maybe is a slightly different picture, but up in the northwest where I'm from and where I'm sat right now in the dismal rain, surprise, surprise. It's just not a career that you can have to earn some of those big sums of money. And I know straight away there'll be people saying money isn't everything, and that's quite correct, but money gives you choices, and money gives you option, and money gives you time freedom to spend with your family. And for me, to wind back to your original question, I think the metric will be having probably a couple of hundred really amazing business partners who are earning truly, truly well and making a real success of themselves, and enjoying being great estate agents, but at the same time getting to enjoy everything with their family and their, time off, and not being sat chained to a desk talking about KPIs.
So what are what are a few of the things that you look for in someone before they partner up with the agency UK? Because I know there's a fairly decent bar they need to kind of jump over at least to kind of meet the minimum standards for yourselves, which is absolutely a great thing to have. So what are the main things you look at for someone with a partner agent with yourself before you go, actually, you cut the mustard? What are the things that get you really excited?
Think it's sort of something that's hard, I suppose, to put into words, and that makes it quite special in essence. But it's the drive and ambition of the individual. It's the belief in themselves, and sometimes people will say they're not very confident. And somebody's springing to mind now, and I'm sure they won't mind me mentioning them. But Mia, who is one of our business partners in Merseyside, as an individual, she's super confident. Would you have asked her, was she really confident in being a business person last January before she launched her business? She'd say absolutely not. But you can sense it, and you can sense people that have got, a desire to do the right thing, and they want to achieve something great for themselves. So that is an intangible, but you can tell somebody's intent, I think, when you speak to people, and that's something that cannot be replicated, but is absolutely, I think, somebody deserving of the opportunity, but also the kind of person that's going to hold themselves accountable. There's a lot about this, self-employed isn't for everybody, da da da. I don't believe in that phrase at all. I think it's a nonsensical phrase. I think there are people out there that will commit to doing some really boring, difficult at times, and monotonous tasks, and also push themselves out of the comfort zone so that they will, reach that next level of earnings or time freedom, or however they deem success to be. And quite simply, there are people that won't, and or expect things to be handed to them on a plate. And so that for me is the distinction of who is going to be successful in this walk of life or not. So yeah, for me, I think it just really comes down to, why is that person on a call with me? Why have they approached me about considering launching their own business? Or, perhaps they've already done that and they're just looking for a different business partner. And it's just really easy to tell the people that have got a proper heart for it. And ultimately, as I say, they'll back themselves and become successful.
Yeah, it's almost that X factor, isn't it? That sort of that
Yeah.
va that you get with certain people. You think, so this guy's going to make it,
Je
whether
ne
it's a
sais
state
quoi.
agency or selling biros or whatever it may be. They've got
Yeah.
the oomph.
Mm, absolutely. And that's the one thing that can't be taught, right? Everything else can be.
Yeah, quite. So you mentioned that you are back on the coal face, and it's the first time since 2015. So what's that, 8, 9 years ago, roughly speaking? So what are the changes you've seen in the state agency from sort of the last time, which I appreciate 2015 wasn't that long ago in the grand scheme. It feels like yesterday. But what are the main changes you've seen in the estate agency world over that 6, 7, 8 year period that you were sort of out the game, so to speak?
Sorry, there's my dogs kicking off in the background.
Right on cue.
Right on cue. Do you know what? God, everything has changed and nothing has changed at the same time, which I know is a weird thing to say, but clients, I think, still don't necessarily understand the whole process, which goes to show just how infrequently lots of us move. I think there's still generally a bit of a apathy towards estate agents, which I suppose is one step up from mistrust, maybe mistrust to apathy. I don't know. I still think that generally, alongside that apathy is just a general thought process that people don't understand how important a great estate agent can be to a successful moving home scenario. And again, ultimately, that's all on us, right? We need to do a better job of not just talking about selling houses, about talking about outcomes and how differently those outcomes can look from one end of the spectrum to the next. I think the fact that we do move so infrequently means that we've got such, I suppose, a badge of honor, really, to educate people from the very moment that we meet them. And I think the whole construct of a state agency goes against us in that fact. You know, is a state agency naturally built for us to just want to give away free advice because we want to educate people, and over time that's going to bring people back to use us? It's just not the conventional setup. So I think self-employed space has got a real task on its hands, but it is going to be the proportion of this industry that moves us forward. And when I say self-employed, look, I'm not just talking about people that are at brokerages. I'm talking about independent estate agents, and people running, you know, those small to medium businesses. That's not me damning the corporates. I spent my time at Countrywide for my sins, and I had a bloody great time. But that sort of goes to what I mean about the construct of the industry, because as an employed person, you are employed to do a certain job a certain way. You haven't got the freedom, the time, and often the resources to do it any other way. So I'm certainly not talking any of you guys down whatsoever. But for those of us that don't have those constraints, we've got a big uphill battle on our hands to improve how clients feel about us. So that kind of hasn't changed or is evolving, but unfortunately very slowly. Race at the bottom on fees, still happening in this area. Market leader in my town charges 0.6%. I mean, he's market leader, got to have at least 30% market share, if not more. What's the point? Why are you getting out of bed in the morning to do 0.6%? That's just insane to me. Again, especially for the bloody market leader, you've got no reason to be doing that whatsoever. The clients need you, you know, more than you need them at this point. Like, charge 2%, crikey. So that's just strange. I just don't understand it whatsoever. Especially because, you know, most agents are still moaning about PB or strike or, you know, whatever it is these days. Still moaning about them. You're still not doing anything about it now, are you? What I find maddening, you didn't ask me that question, I'm going to tell you anyway. People not using professional photography, it just burns my bonds. Like, God, I was about to swear then, but it's a bit too early in the podcast.
So you mentioned agents want to stand out from other agents that go and see it. So obviously, whether you're a countrywide agent or well, Connell countrywide, kind of tomato these days. But if you're a high street estate agent or you're a self-employed estate agent, the kind of the assumption of the public that you're all the same and you just bang on right move, wait for the phone to ring, etc. What are some of the best ways you think that estate agents kind of can differentiate themselves from the estate agent that went before them or the one that goes after them? And you can link that into the agency UK. You can plug away if you like.
So I think at the so I think the first thing that any estate agent should do is actually to understand what the competition do really well. Because I think we are so conditioned just to say that everybody else is shit, right? Probably because we hope that they are. But quite frankly, you know, if you are a personal agent, as an example, and you don't agree with the way corporates are doing things, but ultimately there's a corporate agency that's got market share, whatever else, you're selling loads of homes, blah, blah, blah. They've got to be doing something well, or they've got to be doing something that clearly clients don't mind at the very base point. So I actually think the best way to differentiate yourself is understand what your competition is doing really well or what the clients don't mind at all, and see how either you can do it better, or do something completely differently that adds value to that whole process. So I think just, you know, I think we are conditioned just to say that the competition is crap and, you know, therefore that's the status quo, and it is what it is. I think we just need to give away some of our IP, I suppose. We need to give away some of the trade secrets. We need to say, you know, here's all the reasons that we're going to be able to get you the best price or make this a really stress-free move or blah, 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 blah. And look, you should go and do that and follow these tips, whether you use me or not. And I think that's a really good position to start out from. So say, look, I'm going to give you the best advice, whether I'm the agent you want to work with or not. Hopefully you are, but ultimately that's the decision that we're both going to make, right? And so then you're not upselling anything. You're not even, in essence, trying to sell to them. And we hate being sold to as people. it's kind of just saying, here's a conversation that any professional should have. And that should always be to impart the most amount of wisdom so that you get the best end result on this moving home journey that you're going to go on. And hopefully I'm going to be the one that's going to implement for you. Um, I think, far too often we're just going out there with our right move best price guides and trying to undercut the competition. And I just don't think it has to be that way.
Yeah, quite. And think you find with a lot of estate agents, they kind of go for the USP plus one, which is, they do 13 pictures, we now do 14 pictures, or they charge 1%, we now charge 0.9%. It's kind of just taking what they've got and just trying to slim a little bit off it or add a little bit on top of it, sort of thing. And really, at the end of the day, the consumer's looking at it going, basically, you're all the same. It's just you're one up here, they're one down there. And it's all kind of much of muchness in the grand scheme of things. I think sort of the not the genius is probably a slight exaggeration, but the angle to look at it for it is say, actually, I do what's best for my customer at the end of the day. And am I for everybody? Probably not. But the ones I do work with are absolutely perfect for me. So you mentioned earlier you got the market leader in town at 0.6%. Actually, if he doubled his fees, yes, he would lose a third of his clients, for example, and I would debate they're probably the ones that are paying the backside because they're always the really cheap ones. But the fees would double, but actually his stock load would go down, but he'd be getting paid more at the end of the day for doing less work. So I think that's kind of the trap that lots of estate agents fall into is that little, plus one extra, just minus one extra. Don't really do anything different, but we just kind of will just tweak what they're doing effectively. And if they do this, we'll do that.
And I think, again, I always go back to the vast majority of people in a state agency in the UK are employed. So, some of them are powerless to do anything other than what's set out in front of them, but you can always be yourself. And, again, I'll go to that market leader as well. Yeah, it befuddles me why you just want all that business rather than the best business. And it's mad that he doesn't think to himself that I could really spearhead changing how people perceive estate agents. Because if I did charge that little bit more, I've got to hold myself a little bit more accountable. I've got to really go out and deliver the great results. But I'm going to be able to pay my staff better. They're going to enjoy life better. My clients going to be looked after me. Yeah, it's just mental
Sounds
to me. But there
sounds
we
like
go.
he needs an estate agent consultant. So
I think so. Yeah.
I'm only kidding, Steph. He was too close to you. I wouldn't touch it. Good. So historically, so you've done the UK and America as well. So you headed up Purple Bricks' move to America. So what are some of the differences you see in the UK property market compared to the American market? And follow-up question from that is, do you see the UK market shifting more and more towards the American market?
I think we're very, very obsessed with sort of putting US realtors, real estate agents on this big hill or, on this big pedestal and going, oh, wow, aren't they great? I think there's good and bad estate agents absolutely everywhere. So I think sort of take the selling sunset scenario with a pinch of salt. And actually, if you watch any of the negotiations with clients that any of those selling sunset people do, it's a load of tosh. So I think there's that. I think one thing we can't take away from the agents in the States is that from day dot, they are self-employed and they are up against a tremendous amount of competition. So, and quite naturally, I think Americans are very different to British people. We are schooled differently. The way we think about our country, ourselves, the American dream, it's just very, very different in terms of our upbringing. So I think quite naturally for an American, it is much more natural, sorry, to be forthright, to be a hustler, and that kind of mentality is ingrained in a larger proportion than I believe naturally here in the UK. So, I look at this very much from running a brokerage and seeing that the best result for the client and for the agent probably is being part of a brokerage. I believe that. And I do think that that will naturally be adopted over the next 5 to 10 years in the UK as more opportunity and options become available. But don't get me wrong, do the American real estate agents do a great job? Absolutely. I'm sure there's some that do a terrible job as well, but I think they're just naturally more akin to, I suppose, the business generation bit, which, again, when you bring it back to brokerage, is something that people, ultimately worry about in terms of that business generation.
So do you think the UK estate agent could benefit from a little bit more, how can I phrase this correctly? Self-promotion, American style, in their business to say, I've done a good job. Again, I'll tone this all down. I've done a good job and I've done really well, and I can sell your home as well. Do you think we could kind of deal with, if we've got a little injection in our arm about, not 100%, but like 20% more of that? That would be a good thing.
So yeah, so when you ask the question about sort of self-promotion in a state agency in the UK, I think just British people quite naturally shy away from self-promotion. We kind of don't like it. I think it maybe does go back to the fact that we don't like being sold to. And there's, many great people in the estate agency world that talk about even the humble brag is too much and those sorts of things. And I kind of don't agree with it really, because ultimately, if you do a really good job, of course you should be shouting proud and be proud of it. Particularly in a profession where we're not celebrated, we're not loved. And I know there's this whole thing of, estate agents shouldn't be celebrating they've sold a house, that's their job. But ultimately, the difference between selling a house successfully and having somebody move home in a less stressful format than what predominantly they believe will happen or often are subjected to, I think we bloody should shout about it. And I think we should be really proud of it. When you get a 5-star review, when people have got a really great Google rating, all these things, absolutely do a bit of self-promotion because it's not the norm. And I think people kind of get caught up a bit because there's a very small proportion of estate agents in the UK that use social media. And they're all the faces that we all know, that we see, often a lot, me and you, in that group, right? But there's so many people out there that don't. So be proud of it, shout about it a little more. Every time you get a 5-star review, it isn't about saying, oh, I got a 5-star review. It's about saying, do you know why I got a 5-star review? It's because I was able to help this customer in this scenario, move to their new home. We solved it by doing X, Y, and Z. So ultimately, if you're like that client, I'm probably a really good estate agent for you to talk to if you like that solution. So again, actually the self-promotion can be an education scenario, again, to a group of people out there that don't really understand what we actually do, and as I say, how different and better it can be to have the right person helping you when you're moving home versus the wrong person. So yeah, in answer to the original question, which was, could we as UK estate agents benefit from self-promotion? Absolutely. We should be more American in that manner, although I'm not so much a fan of faces on park benches and bus stops.
Right. No, you and me both. Well, you kind of took the words out of my mouth there. I mean, not the park benches and bus stop bit. I wasn't going to say about that. But with regard to the, giving yourself a bit of a promotion, let's call it. No one likes the shameless old, I'm amazing. I've done this. Aren't I great? I got so and so. But actually, if you do a message that says, I helped Miss and Mrs. Jones who approached me with this problem and I solved it, and they're really happy and they've given me a 5-star review, I see no problems with that in any way, shape, or form. It's like the humble brag, effectively.
Yeah, but again, so I've only had a small window of sort of being back, doing some business generation, listing some homes, selling them, etc. And again, largely my experience has been that people really still don't understand what a great estate agent does and why there's a difference between one estate agent to the next. So actually, the more promotion we can do of the really good instances, is going to help with that re-education of the British public. So please do more of it. I love reading a 5-star review, and think about the review culture that we're in. We're much more likely to write a 1-star than we are a 5-star. And particularly when somebody's just moved home or it's bloody moving day and they're, eating the fish and chips on the knees while they're trying to find a mug to have a little glass of Prosecco in. The fact that somebody's gone to write that 5-star review, or even better, I suppose, if it's 2 or 3 weeks down the line, they've gone, oh crap, I need to write a 5-star for Chris, who helped me so much. The fact that they've taken their time out of their busy lives to do that, I think, hell yeah, let's see them. And if anyone's out there and they've got a really good 5-star review and they would like a pat on the back from me, text it to me because I'll be a cheerleader. Genuinely, make me happy.
I like that a lot. I like it a lot. And the crazy thing is that most of the time to get a 5-star review, all you need to do is ask. In fact, an even better way of doing it is to say to them, how have you found my service? And they always go, oh, it's been really good. Thank you very much. Oh, great. Can you put that on Google for me? And they go, yeah, all right. That's it. 30 seconds, you get a 5-star review. Do that a few hundred times over a year. Job's good and you're market leader in your town on Google.
I think again, I think it's the British thing in us, though. We're a little bit nervous to ask for reviews. I did it myself the other week, and I knew my customers had absolutely loved the whole process. I'd helped move their mum into a retirement apartment. Mum was really, really stressed. She'd been in and out of hospital during the whole process. But we did it from the day I met them when they called me to book a viewing on one of my listings to the day she moved home. It was 13 weeks. So pretty good when you're purchasing a leasehold property. So I knew they were going to be really, really pleased with how it had all gone, but I was still like, any chance I can ask her? Could be really, really cheeky, and could you ever possibly do that? And I'm like, why was I being so shy about it? Like, come on, grow up there.
So one of my clients actually has his Google review QR code as his background on his phone. So if anyone ever says to him, or he gets anybody he does a good viewing with, or if he literally just gets his phone out, doesn't even need to unlock it, just presses the side button. There you go, scan that. You can give me a review right now.
Like that.
Yeah.
That's a little golden nugget, that, isn't it?
Gem of the day, a little gem of the day there.
Mm.
So, with regard to self-employed, 'cause obviously it seems very relevant with yourself on the video call. What do you think is the biggest thing that stops people from going self-employed? So the ones that have an appetite for it but haven't quite crossed that line yet. What's holding them back? Do you think?
For me, it's two things: cash flow and lead generation. I think there are lots of brilliant, brilliant estate agents who have never, or probably considered going self-employed, but just can't because we pay crap wages in the UK. We pay crap wages, again, outside of probably central London. And so who's got several £1,000s or more sat there to get themselves through to month 6, 7, 8, 9? Because it's only at that point do you start getting consistent completions every single month, right? So yes, you may complete on something month 3, you may complete on something month 4, but it's getting to that point and then getting yourself through to the consistent months that's difficult. And I suppose even so, if you've got 20 grand sat in the bank, do you want to put that all into launching your own business? So I think cash flow is an issue. I think lead generation, it's funny, I've had this conversation 5 or 6 times this week alone. I think we overthink lead generation because most of us in estate agents sit there generating leads every single day. It's just probably we haven't time blocked to say, oh, I'm actually generating leads right now. It's just something we naturally do. So I think people massively overthink it, but I think one of the things we do at the agency UK really well is during our onboarding, we go through a business plan session. We go through, here's 5 or 6 very simple things. The top performers, and by top performers, I mean those people that are invoicing every single month for multiple completions and are doing so year 1 plus of their business. This is how they built it. This is what they did in the first 90 days. And so, look, you're all going self-employed. And I always joke and say outside of compliance, people can just ignore everything I say, actually. Obviously, some do. But, they can ignore everything we say. But actually, why reinvent the wheel? If there's people there that have done it and done it successfully, copy them. Do what they've done for the first 6 months. After that, if you want to go off piece and do your own thing, great. But at least just do that consistently for the first 6 months. Get yourself into a position where those completions are coming in and great. I don't really see that there are any other issues or any other reasons that you wouldn't go self-employed because there's so many brokerage options out there now that I think you're going to find the like-minded people. If you're somebody that wants more support or a bit camaraderie, you're going to bit more camaraderie. You're going to find the brokerage that offers that. If you just want to go out and completely do your own thing and be on an island on your own, I think that's a small proportion of people rather than the larger. But you'll find a brokerage that does that. So yeah, obviously that leads me very nicely though to talk about how I battle problem 1, which is cash flow. But
Well, there we go. Well, you've keyed me up quite nicely, so thank you very much. Excellent segue. Thank you so much. So recently, very recently, I think what last weekend or last week sort of direction, you launched that you are paying 30% on listings for, is it new estate agent? Is it existing? What's the line with it? Talk me through what's happening with it.
so just gonna choke on my
It's that big of news.
yeah.
Like taking the wind out of your sails so much that
So yeah, the upfront listing commission model. Again, we've been looking over the last 3 years about how we level the playing field so that all great experienced agents can consider this as an option, because I believe it is truly fulfilling. I believe it can change people's lives in terms of the money that they can earn, and then what that means for your life as a whole. Because as I said earlier, money isn't everything, but absolutely it gives you options and freedom. And we've just felt that everybody does deserve that opportunity. But again, with the wages in UK estate agency, for some it's just not achievable at all. So the upfront listing commission model is just going to allow people who couldn't consider, from a financial perspective, going self-employed, give them that option and allow them to put it on the table. Because, as I've mentioned, I think the lead generation bit is easily overcomeable by the plan that we have in place. That quite clearly, many people have followed, and many people have been successful from. So quite simply, whether somebody is, with another brokerage or brand new to going self-employed, they can join the Agency UK and they can earn 30% of the fee that would normally be paid upon completion at the point of listing. And that just ekes that cash flow issue on, so that they can get to the months where those completions start coming in and feed themselves and not have to dip into their own savings, but also kind of take it off the table in terms of a worry. Because what you want to do when you launch your business is go hell for leather. You want to go hell for leather, be out there generating business, creating momentum, so that again you get to those more steady months as quickly as possible. And so to not have it as a worry as well, I think just allows people to fire on in with full power.
Also, just to if I dumb this down for myself effectively, so if I was an estate agent who I launched today with the Agency UK and I got a listing on month one, let's say for example, and it was a £10,000 fee, so the end of that month I would send you guys an invoice for a third of that, I presume, or 30% of that, so 3 grand effectively. Is that how it would work, or is it the month after? What's the timescale?
You're never more than 7 days away from drawing a commission, so we'll pay you within the week of that property listing. So yeah, it's on a 70-30 split versus our normal 80-20. So you would be able to invoice us for 30% of your 70%.
Got it. That's very good, isn't it?
I think so.
I think so as well. Yeah, that's very good. That's certainly, I think the biggest, well, in my experience, the biggest fear that anyone has when they start a new business is it going to work for me? Because they might go, there's been 100 people before me who've obviously smashed out of the park. That means that I might be that 101 that doesn't work out for them. And no matter how confident, cocky, arrogant, whatever it may be, there's either 1% of you or 99% of you who thinks this could go wrong in some way, shape, or form. So I think anything you can do to kind of soften that is a good thing. But also, it's one thing when you've got 20 grand in the bank, for example, you think to yourself, okay, I can go self-employed. Great, that's really good. There's a different feeling from when that money is just going down. So
Yeah.
when it's going, when you're you got a job and you're like, I'll put a grand in this month or 2 grand in this month, and it's all kind of topping up nicely. That's great. And that's, oh, I've got that money there to spend. But actually, when it comes to start spending it, you're like, oh my God, I'm going to run out of money in 12 months' time, for example. So I think anything that can soften that blow can only be a good thing.
Absolutely. And as I say, I think it's a privilege to be able to invite people to the party that, before now perhaps couldn't have considered it. And it's just the year for me for launching your own estate agency business. I just think the market headwinds are in our favour. Can I just say, by the way, for anybody who survived last year, give yourselves a round of applause. Was that the toughest year in estate agency we've had for the last decade? Oh my God. So well done, everybody. We survived. But this is the year to, make hay while the sun shines. And so yeah, being able to invite those people in and take that cash flow off the table, proper privilege. Really, really fortunate to be in the position to be able to do it. And yeah, we're so excited about this year. I think it's gonna be a fun one.
Absolutely. So how many partner agents do you have at the moment? What's the sort of size of the Agency UK as we speak?
And so as of today, 86. I'm onboarding 14 more though
Wow.
next week. So yeah, we'll hit the magic 100. And it's a nice number. We'll grow steadily again over the remainder of this year. But what's really great is just to see the relationships that are being built across the country, between we're all business partners together. But some people don't meet each other until we get our sort of quarterly get-togethers. But they'll say, "Oh, I spoke to Dan Brownhill today, who most people know on LinkedIn, or in point in his area because he is Mr. Social Media Video. He's been on the phone to Nick down in West Cornwall today." Yeah, it's a really great community. And I'm all for collaboration. And I think it's a really big year for that in a state agency as well, which is good.
Do you think that collaboration is going to be the theme from not necessarily now on, but I know historically when I first started in a state agency, you were kind of it was almost bred into you to like hate your competitors and almost like give them the middle finger when you drive past their office sort of thing. Not that I ever did that. Whereas
I
now
did.
it's maybe once or twice. Whereas now it's far more collaborative, everyone's pulling in the same direction, and yes, you win some, I win some, etc. Do you think that's going to get stronger as the years go on, or do you think you'll get a stage where people think, oh, that's enough collaboration for a while. Let's go back to hating each other again.
Look, I mean, I can only base it on how I feel, but I look back to the estate agent I was when I was on the high street, and petty. I was pathetic. I was a good decade younger than I am now, so I'd like to think of some of that's about kind of growing up, but it just wasn't right. I've got a really funny tale of um, the countrywide brand that I'd used to work for was opposite the brand that I then moved to, the Independent, and they had a sort of promotion at times where they had a counter in their front window, and every time they sold a house, they'd up the counter. It said, "This month so far, we've sold so many houses." So we thought it was really funny to go and stick a big zero on the outside of the window. So for the whole month, it almost said we've sold 0 houses this month, and we'd be sat there in the office absolutely chuckling our heads off. And and you just think, God, Steph, go and sell some houses. Do something better with your time. So I know I was one of the bad guys. I was super competitive. I would have done anything to win listings off other people. I didn't collaborate at all. And I look back now and think how short-sighted that was. So I think if I can change my mindset, I hope that other people can as well, and I truly believe that they can. And I think we're just starting to see the bigger picture, and actually, there's more than enough business for everybody to make a good living. And actually, when we do collaborate, we see fees go up, which means there's the slice of the pie that we're each getting is of a bigger pie, and I'm a huge fan of that.
I were very much on the same side there without in any way, shape, or form. So definitely collaboration over competition every day of the week. Though
Yeah,
don't tell me that 10 years ago, I was all about the competition. But now I'm a
for sure.
changed man, as you are a changed lady, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think, it's kind of funny because I do like to poke fun at myself. Um, I used to have a right move pie chart in my front window. No, it was a half window decal, like of my right move pie chart. I loved it. It's not a metric I measure myself on now in terms of market share, etc. But I can poke fun at myself because we are allowed to change. We are allowed to evolve. And I get the sense that sometimes, particularly on social media, it's almost like just because you used to think that means you're now put in that box for life. I don't subscribe to that notion at all. We can all evolve, we can all change, we can all change our mindset or our beliefs. I get stick from time to time because I used to be a part of Purple Bricks. That's absolutely fine. I didn't believe Purple Bricks was about the low fees, actually. I won't open up that kind of worms though. But now they're like, oh, but now you want to be the most expensive agent in your market. And again, people are allowed to adapt and change. And I think we all need to be a bit more chill about those things.
I like that. And that's a very good way to end our conversations today, being a bit more chill. I like that a lot, Steph. If anyone wants to get hold of yourself, Steph, what's the best way of getting in touch with yourself?
My number is 07389895778, or Steph with a PH, not an F, at theagencyuk.com.
Amazing, Steph, with an F, with a PH, not with an
Don't start that.
one of them.
Just because
Thank
it
you.
rhymes.
Thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it. It's been really good. Thank you so much for making
Thanks
time
for
for a
having
very
me.
busy diary.
Cheers.
Thanks, Steph.